for having me. I just want to go ahead and sing your praises. Rachel has loved working with you. Obviously, I see it from the outside, and not just in her quality of life, but also having like such confidence in the team that she's with and the leadership that she's aligned herself with. So you're building something awesome over there. So I just wanted to kind of pump you up, if you will.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. We love having you guys.
Yeah. So I'm a real estate agent. I've been in. March was technically my 6th year in. Just kind of give you guys some background. I sucked at the beginning. I mean, when I say sucked, I had the traditional like this is really hard. I want to quit. I want to get out. I don't like this. In my first full year, I had 9 under contract and only 4 that went through, and I wanted to quit. I had a guy who did a cash for title on a car before closing and ruined his financing. I had a guy who went out and bought a couch, ruined his financing. I had a title issue come back because I hadn't aligned myself with the right people and the right company who runs title prior to closing, and do it within the first 48 hours. And found out that this lady had a reverse mortgage on her property. And then my client couldn't back out. And go figure, again, another mistake I had made at the beginning is I paid for that buyer's home warranty. Oh, there she is right there. Hey, babe. I've kind of, some of the stuff I've done is come through just pain and learning along the way. And one of the things that Rachel and I try to pride ourselves on is being advisors and consultants rather than salespeople. Now, I think sales skills are important. You don't want to ignore that and just say, well, I'm not a salesperson. Learning how to convey information and get people to make decisions is really important. One of my favorite marketers, a guy named Seth Godin, says, if your client figures out the sales technique that you used on them, would they still be happy with the decision that they made? And I think that can be a really good guiding principle. If you're like, ever learned any of like NLP stuff, in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, it's just a way of using language to get people, and we do this with our kids all the time. I was use a quick example, and I talk really, really fast, but I also tend to talk long. So Karina, feel free to corral me in.
That's why I came downstairs.
I appreciate that. But we do this with our children. When we want our children to make a decision and we want them to make a good decision, we try to figure like, how do I get them to do this? And one of the things in like neuro-linguistic programming is to get someone to say, does that make sense? Are you okay with that? And you're trying to get them to say yes, right? And there's this thing of like, when you get into the habit of saying yes, you tend to say yes more continuously. Well, if I'm trying to teach my young son not to hit his sister, I'm going, hey, bud, this is how we treat each other. This is how we do it. Does that make sense? Is this how you would want to be treated? And I'm trying to get him to do these things. And now as Ethan turns into a 19, 18, 20, 30-year-old, and he's going, wait a minute, my dad used that on me to get me to do this. Hopefully he'll understand that was because I love him and I want him to make the right decision. We need to learn sales techniques to do the same thing, getting our clients to make decisions that are in their best interest, that we really do truly care about them. And you're going, oh my gosh, this person's not making a decision. I know this is the right thing for them. How do I do that? And so I think if you have an aversion to quote unquote sales, you may end up shooting yourself a little bit in the foot by not learning some of those things. So one of the things I kind of wanted to go over today was the idea of market knowledge and being the knowledge broker. And I think that's what you wanted me to kind of go over, Karina, correct?
Yep.
So I think, one of the things I try to do in my buyer or seller's consultations is I will spend a little bit of time going over things like the national market and what's happening with foreclosures and forbearances and how does interest rates work? And is it tied more to the Fed lending rate? Is it tied more to the 10-year yield bond? And going over those things, because once you start establishing and they get these little moments where they go, oh, or aha, these little moments where their brain makes a connection, they realize that you know more than they do. And I don't know about you guys, but have you ever had a client who fights you at every turn because they know more than you?
We've had several lately, yes.
Right? I mean, so I don't want to be the guy who show hands, everybody. But I'm sure that you guys have all had that. And I think sometimes if we will, spend a little bit of time learning this on a regular basis, because some of the fear is like, what if I say it wrong? What if I actually say something and the person does know a little bit more than me? Because some of your clients are bankers. Some of your clients are insurance people. Some of your clients are wealthy business people. And you're like, oh, shit, if I say it wrong, I'm going to look like an idiot, and then I'm going to lose even more trust. So what I would encourage you is we don't make fun of babies for learning how to walk. Okay. And the only way that you get good at something is by regularly doing it. And so I would encourage you to block off some of your time, some portion of your week to learn this stuff inside and out. And if you just show up every single day, once or twice a week, reading these articles, going through it, you're going to get the lingo, you're going to get it down, and it takes a little bit of time. But not doing it at all is not going to help you. I have is there a way for me to share my screen?
Yes, absolutely. Right down here, you see a little like box with an arrow in it. Present now.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep, got it.
All right, so I'm going to really quickly kind of go through some of this stuff. So this is stuff that your clients are reading. Bank failures, increasing recession odds, banking crisis hangs over the economy. I think I made this like 30 days ago. So, forgive me if some of these headlines are a little bit dated, but you get what I'm kind of trying to say here. Mortgage rates and recessions. I'm sure you guys look at stuff like this and you talk about this stuff with your people, Karina, is that rates tend to go down during recessions. People, well, I don't want to make any decisions because a recession is coming. Cool. You do realize that there tends to be in history, the majority of recessions, housing prices have gone up and mortgage rates have gone down. Mm-hmm. Right. And if you can't convey that information to them, you just go, oh, okay, I understand. Right. I'll follow up with you in 6 months. And then either they don't make a decision or they make a decision with somebody else. Housing affordability is probably something that I think we're going to continue to see on a regular basis. If you don't follow, by the way, does everyone know about Black Knight Incorporated, their website?
Not everybody probably does, but
should.
Yes.
It is a fantastic website, Black Knight Incorporated. Make sure feel free to screenshot anything and everything that you see. Again, I'm going to go really quickly. You go to Mortgage Monitor, you go down here, and they have reports. Here's 2023. You can go all the way back through 3 years. Make sure that you read the most recent one because just to kind of, without going through it, you click on report here. There is a crap ton of information. You want to be the knowledge broker, start talking about, for things like new real estate listings, start talking about sales, the actual trends of things. Here's the one I wanted to pull from this month right here. 8 markets, including Louisville, Kansas City, Virginia Beach, Oklahoma City, Philadelphia, Hartford, Cincinnati, and Miami are back to peak levels. We have not retracted in value at all. Zero. None. Nada. There is no, at least in our marketplace, at least right now, there is no crash. It doesn't exist.
Can I share one thing right there with you? That is a great site. I know we haven't shared that, and I am so glad you're sharing that because we haven't had on our call this year that our markets now are differing so much from just now here in the Hampton Roads area to the Fredericksburg area. Yeah. So you will see, which before everybody said we're seeing the same. You will now start to see the shifts in different markets. Yep. And when I say that is we can't get a house to stay on the market in Hampton Roads for 24 hours. Where Jeff is sitting right now, I'm talking to 2 agents who have contracts that the house has been setting for 45 days. Yep. That is usually the past 5 years, fairly unusual for our markets to differ that much just in that short period of time. So great website, Dan.
Yep. Buyer psychology goes a long way. When I'm talking to sellers or buyers, and I'll talk with a buyer and they're like, hey, Dan, why do you think this one's been sitting? And you know how long it's been on market? 12 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody know what the average days on market between 2012 and 2018 was? Any clue?
2012 and 2018. I'm going to say 68 days. Who else?
Yes, 45 to 60 days.
Oh, okay.
That was normal. So for when I have a buyer client who is like, man, why is this thing sitting and it's 12 days on market? That's the market that we're in. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, if you need closing cost assistance, focus on stuff that's sitting. The seller's asking themselves the same question. Why am I sitting? Why haven't I sold yet? Did my real estate agent tell me of a price that was unreasonable just so he could get the listing? Did I overlist this thing? Do I need to fix stuff? I'm going to pull up Rain real quick. Or if you guys have real estate agents, you guys can obviously get some of this information as well. The other thing, well, just really quickly. So I'm looking at Market Insights dashboard. Sorry, I should have pulled this up prior to here. All right, so this is median sales price. in all of Hampton Roads, wait for it to pop up, from 2004 to today, okay? And just a very basic kind of understanding of like, all right, here's the run up in price from 2004 to 2016. Pretty daggone aggressive, right? It's not that this last couple of years hasn't been aggressive, but when you actually look at history, it's not as aggressive as it was here. Now, anything and everything on the planet is regulated, whether we like it or not, by supply and demand. Period, end of sentence. It's very, 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 very basic, right? And so to have this run up in price here, you have to have one of two things, or a combination of the two. Supply has to be extremely limited, or demand has to be through the roof. Does everybody agree with that?
Absolutely.
Cool. So if I go over here and I click on average listings or active listings during this period of time, we would assume that the listings would go down drastically, correct? Wait for it. It's going to load. Sometime today. There we go. Boom. What happened during this time is listings quadrupled from 3,000 to, or quintupled to 15,000. Okay, your brain should be going, wait a minute, Dan, you just said listings should be going down. That's how retarded demand was, or ridiculous, or whatever language you want to use. That's how absolutely absurd demand was. So when someone says, Dan, the market's going to crash, I'm going, cool, listings have gone down. We're way down here. Yes, demand has diminished, but it hasn't diminished enough. Not for our market, at least. Just another little point here, that these valleys, December, January, valley, December, January, valley, December, January, December, January, March. What happens is it goes up every single summer. What's happening right now? There's December, there's January, there's February, there's March. It's gone down, not up. We are not going to see a crash this year in our market, barring any big thing that's going to happen in the news, right? I can't predict a Ukraine. I can't predict things like that. But inventory has gone down, not up, when it typically rises on a regular occasion for the last 20 years. Not happening here. It's not happening. I don't care if interest rates go up another full percentage. It's unlikely to happen. All right. So we'll go back over here, and I'm going to try to go quick. I think housing affordability is going to continuously be a dialogue between whether it's political or whether it is the dinner table. Housing unaffordability is going to be a topic at the dinner table. Just like California has been for a long, long period of time. It's so unaffordable, because the way that this changes is supply has to increase, right? And if foreclosures, forbearance programs look pretty good. Hadn't changed much, right? Another thing, this is on the Black Knight website. So here, let me give my full screen here again. Boop. All right, so this is why it's absolutely one of my favorite charts that is on that website. This is payment to income ratio is the blue line. Green line is average interest rate, okay? As a percentage of someone's income, what was someone paying in 1977 for the average house at the average interest rate? They were paying 25% of what their income was for the house. In 1981, it was 55%. So when someone says we're paying more today now than ever in history and our grandparents are full of crap, no, they're wrong. Your grandparents paid 55% of their incomes to buy a house. Is it high? Yes. So what you see here is that there's a crazy tight correlation between interest rates and housing affordability, because a house, unless you're paying in cash, has to do with what? Payment. What you'll notice here is in 2001, that started to divorce a little bit. During this period of time, interest rates went down. You can kind of see right here. What did housing percentage-wise do? It remained flat. When housing interest rates remained flat, which it did, crazy enough, from 2003 to 2009, nearly 6 years, what did housing affordability do? It went up. And that's where that run up came from. I hope some light bulbs are kind of going off here, right? And then you can kind of see that correlation basically remained the same. So what people don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear that they've been spoiled for the last decade. From 2010, from 2000 to 2020, or from 2011 to 2021, however you want to look at this, the percentage of what people's incomes it was to buy a house was at an all-time low for 50 years. We've been spoiled little brats.
Yeah.
Okay. But the reality is for a decade, this is what the consumer gets used to. The consumer is not looking at this chart. The consumer is not paying attention to it. All they know is, hey, for relative history, this is what it cost me to buy a house, and now it's here. And it's the fastest rise that we've seen since early 1980s, late 70s. Does that make sense, everybody?
Absolutely.
Cool. Is this helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. All All right. You'll see headlines like this: foreclosures are up 700%. What they don't tell you is that they're taking the lowest of the forbearance program to when they remove that. Well, of course, when you say, "Hey, forbearance is no longer an option," what happens? Everybody that was, basically forgiven and said you don't have to make mortgage payments immediately goes into either foreclosure or has to get themselves out of it. This is headline. This is fear and greed. 95% of all headlines are negative. Why? Because it gets attention.
Do you think, can I interrupt you real quick there?
Yep.
Your professional opinion, and this is a conversation for debate, I think, in the next 6 to 18 months. The biggest payment people have is their mortgage payment. And we're in the most credit card debt we've probably been in the past 10 years. And we're going to start. Do you feel like we're going to see more in the forbearance? And that is a conversation that all loan officers should have up front to see if they are also ever been or going into any type of forbearance, if they're going to move, or also be in position to buy if they have a current house. Because I see I'm going to try and waive my $2,200 payment, then my Capital One payment at $240. If I can do so, not knowing the repercussions of what's going to come 3 months or 6 months into that forbearance.
Yeah.
So,
a couple thoughts. One is I'll let my car get repoed before I lose my house.
Yeah. I hope most people think about that, but I think some of them are going to get sucked into the forbearance and feel like they can get caught up afterwards. That is a fear of mine, that people aren't going to be educated enough to what it's going to do to them later.
Karina, just to make sure I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking kind of my insights or thoughts around as a consumer credit goes up, what are they going to choose to do?
Yeah. Are they going to think a quick fix would be, let me save on my mortgage payment, get caught up on my credit cards for 6 months, and then not realize in 6 months I have 6 mortgage payments coming due?
Yeah, I think in general, when you go through and you look at some of the data in these reports, you'll see that even though in some markets there has been a retraction in price, the amount of equity people have in their homes is pretty monstrous. And I would rather refinance my house, increase my payment by $500 and pay off all my debts than lose everything.
Bingo. So that's why I said people saying people aren't refining. Now is actually the perfect time to consolidate debt between a 5 and 8% interest rate that are 18 to 36%. Absolutely.
Is it ideal? No. Do I want to take out a high interest rate HELOC or refi? No. But if it's between that and looking bad to my neighbors, I don't want my neighbors talking about how I've just lost everything.
Yeah.
I think that people drastically underestimate. We like to make these predictions like we know perfectly how things are going to work with you. I like looking at human behavior and what people tend to do, right? Just like we say to our kids, don't tell me what you're going to do, show me.
Right.
I want to make predictions based off of what people actually do.
Right.
Actually do. Okay. And so what I would say is it is unlikely. Now, the people that are most prone to disruption or these situations are going to be people that have bought in the last few years with low down payments, that don't have necessarily the equity that's there. But the vast majority of the market has equity in their homes. 40% of all owner-occupied homes in the state of Virginia are paid off.
That's just crazy right now, right?
I'll say that again, and you can look that up. There are several different ways to do it. 40% of all owner-occupied. I'm not talking about investment properties. I'm talking about owner-occupied. And the reason I say owner-occupied is because those are the ones that people don't want to let go. I don't want to be homeless.
Right.
Right. And if I can solve it the short term, and when I would say short term is if I'm 60 or 70 or 80 years old and I need to take equity out of my house and it's paid off, I'm not going to move out. There's no way I can afford a mortgage today on a fixed income. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do a reverse mortgage. I'm going to take money out of my house. I'm going to pay off some bills. I'm going to, that problem of what do I do later in life? That's the problem for 10 years down the road, Dan, to solve. I need to solve right now problems for Dan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And when people get into a problem, that's what they're going to do. They're going to solve today's problems. And so that's kind of what you're doing is you're solving, whether it's HELOC or refi, you're solving people's today problems.
I agree.
Then at the end of the day, when you're looking at purchasing, people can say on affordability all they want. You have one of the two decisions. You rent or you buy. Period. That was in 1971, 81, 91, 2001 today.
You do. Absolutely. Great. Everybody look up Black Knight, get your reports done. I mean, eye-opening when you actually look at it. You start educating yourself to the consumer, and like Dan said, then they're not going to go anywhere else because they're going to feel like you are the expert. So I 100% agree.
One last thing, Karina, and I know we're up against a timeline here.
Sure.
Just real quick, I have we're going kind of down a rabbit hole on a lot of this, and we were asking questions, which is absolutely fantastic. But just to kind of show my point here is, I have. Can you guys still see my screen here?
Yep, absolutely.
I'm going through, and I'm talking about this with my buyers. Do you know what the average amount of mortgage rates are below a certain percentage, and showing that chart? I'm talking about the average tenure. I'm talking about these things. Now, if you guys are competing for business, which I'm sure when you're working with Karina, you don't have to do it nearly as much because you have amazing rates, right? But when you talk about this stuff and go in depth over it, and you spend the extra 15 or 20 minutes on the front end, maybe even 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. I don't know about you, but I'd rather spend an extra hour with somebody and secure the business than have to go back out there and try to win more business. And when I'm going over this stuff, and there's two different loan officers and we're really close on numbers, who are they choosing? I want the person who's an expert. I want the person who's going to properly advise me. And I'll end there.
Right. I know. I think that's great. And I 100% agree. And that also goes the fact of what I started with is you want the one who's going to be in the game with you for the long haul, because you may not get a house this week, next week, or even 3 months from now. You may choose, depending on the home buyer, what they're looking for, what they're not looking for. You're going to be in this with them. So if you're not having those conversations up front, and you're also not giving them, they're going to shop you the whole entire process, right? Mm. So keeping them on the hook for the whole process and not being shopped 3 months, 6 months is because you've built that rapport with them and you have educated them in a way that someone else just took an application and was lazy, right? So that is 100% true. So thank you so much, Dan. That was really, really good. Really good.
If you guys have any questions, or like, hey, Dan, you went through that slide really quickly. Where do you get that resource? Well, you can probably find my information.
We got a few more minutes left, so I want to open it up to who has a question for Dan. Anybody? Somebody raise their hand. I was looking over here in the corner. Nobody?
I know I went really quickly. Sorry about that.
No. I think you did a great job. Exactly what we needed today. And exactly what you need to know in order to have these conversations up front with the buyers, because of the fact this is, again, a repetitive market from 95 to 2005. Who is going to actually solidify the business, give them the most information that they can carry with them. And you will be their person for life, because you're going to actually do business with their whole entire family, all their relatives, everybody else. And they're not just going to go shop you on the internet because you're going to bring that extra value. So great job.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And if you don't follow Dan, he's got some great YouTube stuff that he does. He educates his people out there, and these are the people that we want to be working with to really bring the extra value to our team. So thank you for trusting us too, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody, have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.